that's a story that helps all the other cave people think to themselves, oh, okay, next time I hear rustling in bushes, I should look for a stick in case it's a saber-toothed tiger. I think that any organization, whether it's a for-profit enterprise or an NGO or a family or a classroom, has got some very complex equation that they're trying to optimize, some sort of shareholder value or mission or whatever that they're working on. And they've got finite resources to get that job done. And often they're competing with other NGOs for funding or other enterprises for customers or time and attention or whatever it is they're competing for with those limited resources. So if you've got a richer toolbox for making decisions and prioritizing things, then the next organization, you're going to thrive versus your competitors versus your peers. And adding in the idea of distributed leadership at a distance to whatever tools you've already got can only make you more competitive.
Yeah, I want to pick up on what Michael said about complexity in response to this question too, because I think when I think of distributed leadership, I think of our world as being a very complex place and our organizations being very complex and really, honestly, much too complex for one mind to grapple with. And so making sure that you have that diversity of thought and that people feel empowered to bring that to the table within the organization is really important, because that's the only way you can wrestle with complexity. And I think we might chafe or question this idea of distributed leadership because it seems to flatten out the organization. And I think, as humans, we've evolved in a way that we're used to thinking of organizations as existing within these top-down hierarchies, right? But what distributed leadership wants us to do is to flatten out the organization so that more people can be in leadership positions or step up to the plate to be in leadership positions and bring their diverse perspectives to the collective consciousness of the organization to move it forward. And it sometimes, I think, could be counterintuitive to what we're used to thinking about in terms of leadership.
Agreed. Here's a thought though, listening to both of you two. So Michael, one of the conversations we seem to have also been having besides Apollo 13 is the note or stories. Stories are critical to leadership. That perhaps a modern leader, if we still lean on leaders in that regard, that their strengths are less about making decisions in the sense of the day to day and kind of how to do things. That they're really there to define the why we're moving forward in a particular direction, and then create the narrations by how. Does that resonate with you, and how does, if it does or doesn't, how does that resonate with this distributed leadership?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that as a designer, the power of a story is a key piece of the designer's portfolio. So, said the caveman sat around the campfire and came back and told a story about, I was out there, I was hunting, and I heard a rustling in the bushes, and there was a saber-toothed tiger, and I picked up this stick and I hit it on the head, and then I came back here. That's a story that helps all the other cave people think to themselves, oh, okay, next time I hear rustling in bushes, I should look for a stick in case it's a saber-toothed tiger. And it's a much more effective way to communicate that than a checklist of things or some rules to follow, because that story is visceral. Stories have got a power. The human brain is just not capable of ignoring a good story. You want to know what's going to happen.
Crave it.
And that really helps a leader in a distributed world communicate what's important, because I can tell the stories to people and repeat those stories, and they're going to tell the stories and be much more effective at repeating a good story than they would be at repeating, a list of to-dos or the top 5 strategic imperatives of the organization, whatever else is going to be. So it ends up being a very, very powerful tool to get things done when you're not there to make sure that they're happening the way you think they ought to.
What's the favorite organizational leadership story you've heard?
The it's is we're talking about this, and something that happened very early in my career post business school when I was working at American Express keeps coming to mind. So I'll tell you this story, and it's one that I've
Okay.
told at work too, because it's a story about why even the smartest person in the room can't outthink the team. So, working at Amex out of business school, and we had some sort of team leader training thing come in, as they often do for recent MBA graduates to teach you how to be better at what you're doing. And this particular one gave a scenario of, you're in a plane crash, you're in the middle of the Yukon, and these are all the things that you've got to take with you, and what are you going to do in order to survive. And everybody had to go and rank these 25 things, and I
Huh.
thought to myself, like, I got this. Like, I'm a big camper, like I ride my dirt bike, I go out into the wilderness for days by myself and cook my own, like I'm going to nail this. I'm going to
Right.
be way better than all these other New York MBAs on this. And sure enough, me and my friend Michael both got like the highest scores out of the 20 odd people in the room in ranking these things. I was like, okay, yay, we won. And then the person leading the workshop says, okay, now we're going to break into whatever it is, 4 groups of 5 or 6 people. And you guys are all going to talk about what are the right things to do. So we go and we break into those groups, and they come back. And, as you would figure based on the topic here, each of those 4 groups outperformed even the most brilliant survivalist, me, in terms of their ability to come up with the right answer. The group mind is always going to be smarter than any one particular individual.
Makes me think
Yeah.
on a very shallow level that carnival trick where they have like a a container full of like M&Ms. There'll be like a
Hmm.
thousand, and they ask one person, and they'll be like maybe on really close, maybe really far, but you get 100 people, and it's always like within. They take the average, and it's always within like 3 of the M&M.
Hmm. No, the
So,
collective wisdom of the group is always very powerful.